Welcome to the story of God. This is story number 1 about creation, and it's taken from Genesis 1 to 3, Job 38, and Revelation chapter 12. This story is about God, a being who was before all things and created this earth and everything in it. God alone always does what is good and right and perfect. The Bible calls him holy. While God was creating the foundations of the earth, angels watched with amazement, singing together and shouting for joy. God created these beautiful angels to worship him. Well, some of these angels rebelled against God and his ways. See, any rebellion against God is called sin. God will not allow sin to remain in his presence forever. So he sent the rebellious angels into the darkness on the earth to face final punishment later. Then God decided he would create another being called a human. And God took the earth and prepared it as a place for humans to live. His Spirit moved on the surface of the earth as he made light, separating it from the darkness. He divided the oceans and the sky. He gathered the waters so dry land would appear. He grew plants and flowers and trees with seeds to reproduce themselves. He created the sun, the moon, and the stars, setting the days and seasons into motion. He filled the seas with fish, the sky with birds, and the earth with all kinds of wild animals. God put great care and creativity into all his creation, giving it unbelievable potential. Then he looked at everything and he said, "Oh man, this is good." And after he prepared the earth, God said, "Let us make humans in our image, to be like us. They will be in charge of the earth and the plants and the animals that live on it." So God formed man from the dust of the ground, and he breathed his own breath into him, giving him life. This man would be called Adam. Later, God created the first woman, Eve, from one of Adam's ribs to be a companion and to be a helper for Adam. God created both the man and the woman in his own image, and God blessed the man and the woman with the ability to continue creating through having children. The humans were given the job to develop the hidden potentials of God's world. He told them, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over everything on the earth." He placed the humans in a beautiful garden, a place where they had everything they could possibly have ever needed to live life to the fullest. And in the center of the garden, God placed 2 special trees. One was the tree of life, and the other was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. God said that Adam and Eve could eat from any tree in the garden except for one, the tree that would give them knowledge of good and evil. He warned them not to eat from this tree, or they would surely die. Daily, God would come and he would spend time with the humans, walking with them in the cool of the day. He showed them how to live in the best possible way, a life lived close to God, under his protection, doing the work that he gave them, a life that is full and complete. Adam and Eve loved being with God. And as God looked over his creation, he thought, "This is very good." And after creating all of this, God rested, and he set aside a day of rest each week for his creation. This is story number 2 on rebellion, and it's taken from Genesis 1-3. One day a serpent, the most clever of all the animals in the garden, came to the woman. And he asked Eve, "Did God really say you must not eat from any of the fruit in the garden? Did he really say that?" Eve told him, "No, we can eat from any tree in the garden. It's only the tree of the knowledge of good and evil that we are not allowed to eat from, or even to touch, or we will surely die." The serpent said to her, "You won't die. God knows that your eyes will be opened when you eat it. You will become just like God, knowing everything, both good and evil." When Eve saw how good and delicious the fruit looked, and that it would make her wise, she took some of it. She ate it. She also gave some to Adam, her husband, who was with her, and he ate it. They chose not to believe God and to believe the lie. Instantly their eyes were opened, and they became filled with shame and fear. They strung fig leaves together around their hips to cover their nakedness. Toward evening, they heard God walking about in the garden, so they hid themselves among the trees. God called out to them, "Where are you?" Adam answered, "I heard you coming, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." And God answered, "Why are you ashamed of being naked? Did you eat the fruit I told you not to eat?" Adam blamed Eve, saying, "It was the woman you gave me. She gave me some of the fruit to eat." Then God said to Eve, "How could you do this?" Eve blamed the serpent, saying, The serpent tricked me into eating the fruit." So God said to the snake, "Because you have done this, you will crawl on your belly, and you'll eat dust all the days of your life. You will be the enemy of the woman and her children. You will bite his heel, but he will crush your head." God's heart was broken because of their disobedience, but he could not ignore what they had done. You see, God always does what is good, right, and perfect. His perfect justice required that there be consequences for rebellion. God punished Adam and Eve by throwing them out of the garden, outside of his care and outside of his protection. No longer following God's way, they were now subject to sickness, pain, and death. Not only were the humans punished as a result of their disobedience, but all of creation fell under a curse. Nothing remained as it was supposed to be, except God was still good, right, and perfect, and nothing could change that. God continued to love Adam and Eve, and he even created clothing for them out of animal skins so that they would not be ashamed. They might not be ashamed outside of the garden.